$6,000 worth of GhostRider statues. Who in their right frickin' mind would own $6,000 of a statue of a character they're not even a big fan of? This guy would. Hey guys, welcome to the Extreme channel. My name's Mr. X. If you can't tell from the stuff that's in front of me, that will be covering my ugly mug most of this review. So side note, if you're here just to see me, probably not a good video to watch. But if you're here to look at what I would almost say 3 amazing Grail statues of none other than Johnny Blaze, this is the place for you. Today we are looking at these 3 GhostRider statues. They're all 1/4 scale, meaning 4 times the size of a real life version. And we're gonna do an Xtrumble. That's right, we're gonna do an Extreme Rumble, see which one is the best of these 3 statues. And the cool part is, this is actually an interactive video. We'll come back to that. So as some of you know, I like extreme collectibles, specifically statues. And with that being said, here are 3 amazing statues of GhostRider, who, as I alluded to in the intro, I'm not a huge fan of the character. However, I love how GhostRider looks. And when you look at high-end collectible statues, a big part of it just is not necessarily about your attachment to the character, but the art that can be displayed, at least in my opinion. So clearly we have 3 beautiful works of art in front of me. And if you want to get specific details on each of these, I've done in-depth reviews on each one separately. The first one I ever reviewed was actually this one in the middle, the GhostRider without a bike. And he has some qualities I think that are going to be incredibly difficult to beat. But there are going to be some quite obvious things that are like, well, that doesn't make sense for a GhostRider statue. Then the first GhostRider statue I ever bought, I believe this was one of my first pieces I ever bought from XM Studios, was this piece right here on my left, the XM Studios GhostRider on bike. It's a highly sought after piece that goes for a lot of money in the aftermarket. And I'll never forget some of the feelings I had when I unboxed it, and he still blows me away to this day. But most recently, this last one on the end, this custom, just arrived. And just like the other ones, I was blown away for so many different reasons. And as I look at all 3 of them right now, I definitely say this is going to be a tough Xtrumble. As I'm filming this, I don't know who's going to win. Let me clarify a few things. All of these are sold out. The only way to buy them is from second-hand buyers, so I can't help you with that. Mr. X, are you going to sell any? I do not know. However, if I do decide to sell them, I always sell stuff through this channel. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you like this video, you hit that subscribe button, and you hit a bell notification. Because anytime I do sell stuff, as I said, I launch it here on the channel first. And members, actually, there's an Extreme Channel membership option with a join button below. They get first crack at these. But let's not waste any more time. Let's dive into the Xtrumble, and we're going to use the 5 basic categories I do during reviews, starting off with concept. Now, concept we talk about, does it follow the character? Does it look cool? Does it match source material? Well, these are all comic versions of GhostRider with modern twists on them. There is no specific source material other than the fact that it's from GhostRider, who is a Marvel character. It's a shame they didn't base any of these off the critically acclaimed, should have been Oscar-nominated Nicolas Cage GhostRider movies. But for concept with GhostRider, one quintessential thing I just want to nip in the butt right away is GhostRider, the big part of him is his bike. He has a motorcycle that actually kind of transforms into almost a creature-like thing of the underworld. Now with that being said, look at these 3 statues. Clearly the one in the middle doesn't have the best concept because he doesn't have a bike. I think having a bike on GhostRider is quintessential, and unfortunately this one doesn't even stand a chance because of that. So for that reason, it is number 3 when it comes to concept. However, I do love a lot of the other things about this. I love the light up features, I love the pentagram on the back, and there's some other things we'll look at in the other categories. So let's look at the other 2 pieces. Now, both of them have a very action dynamic pose, where GhostRider is riding his bike, where he's screaming out in the air. One has a few different portrait switch outs. There's fire everywhere, not only in the tires of the bike, all around the cement and the ground. Now, one thing I really like about XM Studios is how he's popping a wheelie. I think that is incredibly cool. I think the engineering is done very well, which is more of a design thing. But the custom one here, but I think the bike looks more like a GhostRider bike. Like I said, it's kind of transformed a little bit more. It's also very action dynamic. And while I like the XM Studios base, it's kind of a picture of hell. You know, you have skulls and lava and flame coming out of it. The other one is a street, which is where you typically see GhostRider. So I think it's an extremely close battle, but I think the custom one does have a better concept for GhostRider, and that is the winner, the custom on bike. Now design, I'm about to announce the winner in probably 60 seconds, and I don't even know who it is. So first, huge props to all of them on a number of things. Number one is I think the custom ones have a lot of switch out options. If you recall, the one in the middle here actually had 3 different portraits, and one was actually a transformation portrait. Check it out right here. Incredibly unique. I think this gives it a lot of props. The second thing is the light up feature on this middle one is incredible. They used translucent resin for the flames everywhere, and that made the light up feature really come to life. I'm not a huge fan of light up features, but if they're going to do it, this is the way to do it. Now, the custom one does have a light up feature on the head that is considerably weaker, as you see, so that is a nice option. But they also have 2 portraits, one that you see screaming, and then even a bust display for the portrait below. Would have been so cool if the custom one in the middle had portrait displays, because they have awesome portraits as well. Another thing I think is kind of a tie between them all is the way that the chain is wrapped around GhostRider. It's all very dynamic. It's different pieces segmented together. The one in the middle actually has the most chain, but it's not on fire. The custom on bike, the entire chain's on fire. In XM Studios, only part of the chain is on fire. So I think they each have their merits when it comes to that. As far as engineering of the piece, that's where the one in the middle is pretty simplistic other than the chain. Obviously the ones on the bike, both XM Studios and the custom one, are incredibly complicated from an engineering standpoint. How GhostRider seats into the bike and the bike seats into the wheel, and then flames are seated everywhere. So I think they kind of have the margin for that. The one in the middle has a huge benefit too. It's very easily displayable. So I honestly think that when it comes down to the design of the piece, you know, the engineering, the displayability, some of the complicated stuff they had to do, I think that XM Studios is number 3. I'm really shocked by that. So XM Studios is number 3, although I would still say the design is amazing. And the crazy engineering of the bike definitely overlooks the fact that this has 3 awesome portraits. So I think the winner of the design is the custom on the right. Now regarding the portraits, we're not going to do a category for them, but if we did, I think, you know, the fact that there's only 1 from XM Studios, there's 2 from the custom on bike, there are 3 from the standing museum GhostRider. Not only are there 3, I think they are the best portraits, especially with that transformation one and the light up features. So if we did do a category on the portraits, I think it would go in that order. Number 1 is the custom museum, number 2 is the custom GhostRider on bike, and number 3 is XM Studios. Now we're going to dive into paint and sculpt, which this is just going to be as incredibly difficult. I want to start with paint on these pieces. First of all, when you look at fire on a piece, you're going to find a big gap in people that prefer painted resin or polystone like the bikes have, or translucent resin like the one in the middle has. Now I'm a fan of translucent resin, so I'm partially biased, especially with this light up feature. But if you recall the review from the custom on bike, there was a lot of sloppy places on the paint. And not only on the fire, a few other areas weren't the best. So right off the bat, it's pretty easy for me to say that the custom on bike was number 3 regarding paint. Still done very well. When I look at these 2 right here, the difference between XM Studios and the museum, I want to eliminate the fire because I think they're both done very well, but they're different concepts. So I want to look at the character, the chain, things of that nature. And that gets very difficult because it's basically grays and blacks. Now I could look at the paint on the portrait as well, but I think these 2 are pretty equal. I actually like the paint on this portrait the best, but I think the rest of the statue is number 3 on the paint. So these 2 both did a nice job on the portrait. I think the museum custom in the middle looks a little bit more like a skeleton. But when you look at the outfit, well, it's a lot of black on here. I think it's incredibly close. I really, really do. I think that I'm trying not to judge the bike on the paint because this one doesn't have a bike comparison. I think I need to call it a tie between these 2 for the paint. Now let's dive into the sculpt, and again, I want to emphasize that these are all fantastic sculpts, but let's kind of look at which one's better. When it comes to the base, all phenomenally done. I think the one in the middle looks most like concrete. It looks more than this one on the side. The fire is all very good. I'm not going to dive too deep into that. On this one, you have this lava base with these skulls, which also looks very good, but it's like comparing apples to oranges when you say, what does it look like next to concrete and manholes? Sorry, we're in 2020. Person holes. Let's look at the bikes really quick. So I think I think XM Studio's bike looks fantastic. There's a lot of emblems in there that are really significant of a motorcycle, and then it's slightly transfigured into GhostRider's bike. Where this one, as half-assed reviews called it, is more organic, where it's kind of turned into a creature. And I think there's some really intricate detail done in that in the transformation process. So I think with the bike, I think the custom bike is sculpted better than XM Studios, even though XM Studios is done very well. When it comes to the sculpt on the actual GhostRider himself, regarding his leather outfit, his clothing, realistically, I don't think it's a contest. If you remember my review of the museum one in the middle, that is by far the best. The intricate detail in his outfit is unbelievable, from the buckles to the folds to the rips. It looks like it's actually cloth. So I think that sculpt goes there. The portraits are all done very well. I think XM Studios is the weakest when it comes to the portrait. And I might even give the portrait to the custom GhostRider. But when you're looking at a GhostRider statue, obviously you're looking at the base and GhostRider himself. I think the sculpt goes to the guy in the middle, despite the fact he doesn't have a bike. So he would be the winner, and then that is followed by the custom on bike, and then XM Studios. Now we're going to talk about value for these pieces. So if we talked about retail price, it would be a no-brainer. XM Studios would win because this retailed under $1,000, where the one in the middle was about $1,500, and the custom one was $2,000. However, nowadays, all of these go for over $2,000 typically. And I don't even see the two customs up for sale ever, so they're very hard to attain. And one reason for that is they have a very low edition size. They made less than 60 of each of these. But you got to think the one in the middle, not a lot of people are searching for a GhostRider who's not on a bike, unless maybe display space is an obstacle for them. So he's a great choice for that. But also, with a custom market, that eliminates a lot of buyers. People don't want custom statues. They want licensed pieces, so more people may gravitate towards the XM Studios. Let's talk about shipping, because if I'm going to ship these out, that is definitely a cost factor. XM Studios is a decent sized box. It's packaged very well. I don't have to worry about breakages. It's one box. Shipping, I'd say, is a pretty decent option. One in the middle, shipping is a very decent option. It's a very small box, not going to cost me a lot of money. The custom GhostRider, shipping is outrageous. Not only is it two huge boxes, but I paid for $500 shipping. So I can say right now, I definitely think I can get my money back, and I can probably even make a profit on all of these. But I think because of shipping and the size, the custom GhostRider on the far right is the least valuable when it comes to that part of it. And I want to clarify, when I say least valuable, I probably could get the most money for this piece, but I'm talking about longevity and potentially making a profit. I do really think he would probably sell for the most. But value just isn't about which one costs more. When it comes down to it, more people want him on a bike and more people want a licensed piece. So I think for those reasons, especially the fact that if you were able to get the XM Studios at retail, we have to give the value to this guy. He still goes for quite a bit of money, and that just blows my mind why a licensed company hasn't done another 1/4 scale GhostRider. Now we're going to talk about X Factor. They all have the X Factor. I think they even all got 5 out of 5 as their overall score. But which one is the best? Well, unfortunately, as much as I like it, I got to knock the one in the middle out right away because he doesn't have a bike. That's just the truth. I want GhostRider on a bike. So if I was to sell two, which one would I get rid of? Definitely would get rid of one in the middle for the reason he doesn't have a bike. Now, I actually had to pause the video because I had to stare at the two on bike to kind of figure this out and figure out what plays into this. I think the bottom line is I very, very much favor the portrait on the custom one, and I very, very much favor the bike. While I favor the paint and the base on XM Studios, and the portrait and the bike are still done very well, I think when I'm looking at GhostRider, I'm looking at his portrait, I'm looking at his bike, those are the things I'm drawn to, those are the things I want more. So I think in this Xtrumble, the X Factor, or the best statue, is the custom GhostRider on bike. And I'm not incredibly surprised, but I really wasn't sure when I started this video. Now is where I want it to be interactive. Not only throw down in the comments below which one you would keep, but why you would keep that piece. Be cool to read off some other people's comments. And guys, remember, art is subjective. So they're all fantastic pieces. They're all 5 out of 5 statues in my opinion. I am lucky to have 3, let alone 1. But thanks for tuning in, guys. This really process didn't help me at all. I don't want to get rid of any. I still love them all. So gotta find display space, right? That's what it's about. But make sure, if you haven't subscribed to the channel and you like stuff like this, hit that Mr. X logo, hit the bell notification, check out some of these other statue comparison videos or Xtrumbles. Until I'll talk to you tomorrow. Take care.